let's move on to our bullpen guys. Now the bullpen is going to get, an added, couple arms here. We'll see what happens. But you are going to have Sir Anthony. You're going to have Alvarado. You're going to have Hoffman back. You're going to have Soto back. You're going to have Orion back. You're still going to have those guys in the system like Brogdon. The guy they just brought in from the Rays yesterday is pretty much out of minor league options. So if he makes the team, he's already on the 40-man. There's 2 open spots remaining on the 40-man roster. So you can't send, and I don't have his name in front of me, but you can't send him back down to the minor. So he's going to have a chance to make the bullpen in spring training. If he doesn't, he's just going to be straight up cut. So there are going to be a couple names added to the bullpen. Now, obviously, the big one on the market is Josh Hader. Dave Dombrowski mentioned him at the end of year press conference when he was asked about the bullpen, and he said, I agree that, big name closers are great, but there's so few of them in the game. And he mentioned Hader by example. Now, MBD, if you're in the chat, I would love for you to say why you don't exactly like Josh Hader.
He's a hater.
No, so I'm not signing Hader if they sign a Nola or Yamamoto or, one of these bigger name players. I think the Hader thing is pretty unrealistic, one. So let me preface it with that. But two, if you strike out on those starting pitching options, then I think he becomes a viable option.
Yeah.
So he's projected in the 6-year, $110 million contract kind of realm. Here he is last year for the Padres. The left-hander appeared in 56 innings and 61 appearances. He went 2-3 with a 1.28 ERA, 85 Ks, and a 1.1 WHIP. He's a 5-time All-Star, sub-1 career WHIP, which is spectacular. And 15 Ks per 9, which is also really good. Here is 5 years, $88 million. Another one I saw was 6 years, $110. So you're probably somewhere in that 5 to 6, floating around $100 million range. Biggest name on the market by far. I don't think that anybody else is really close. Dombrowski said they think they have some arms in-house that can fill that closer role. I thought it was interesting. He said, you don't really need that big name closer. The Josh Haders of the world aren't around that often. Well, one's around. Do you take a shot on him? I don't think they do, but I'm certainly intrigued by it.
Yeah. Also, I know in the chat, Eugene Krabs was mentioning, I don't want to overlook this. I know you touched on it briefly, but adding Fleming. The Phillies on Monday did go through with acquiring left-hander Josh Fleming, right-hander Michael Mercado from the Rays, 2 separate transactions.
Yeah, Fleming's the one without minor league options.
Yeah, so they claimed Fleming off of waivers. They got Mercado for AA right-hander Adam Leverett and cash considerations. And, the numbers they've had are decent. But they're, for Mercado specifically, looking to make that major league debut. But overall, Fleming at 27, 2-0 with a 4.70 ERA and 12 appearances with the Rays, 25 strikeouts, 19 walks in 51 2/3 innings. Good sinker breaking ball combo. And Mercado on the other side, 24, also young, 4.79 ERA and 52 appearances last season with AA Montgomery and AAA Durham, and struck out 95, walked 35 in 62 innings with a fastball that can average 95.7. So 2 small changes that we've seen. I don't know what you guys think about them, if you're encouraged by them at all. I mean, hey, we talked about going out and getting bullpen arms, able to bring in a couple of guys. But of course, for the Phillies specifically, someone like Hader is definitely a guy that you're looking to also add. I mean, it's not done. The Phillies are going to be looking to add more, because especially if Aaron Nola's unable to, you're unable to re-sign Aaron Nola, you're now looking to bring in, if not a big name starting pitcher, at least, a guy that can be a 4 or 5 starting pitcher in the rotation, but then also some more bullpen arms to fill in. So I know MBDBDBF, you're saying Hader wouldn't take the ball for a 4-out save with the Padres postseason on the line. Hey, I think that he's got, oh, wow, Eugene Krabs, you read my mind. I was going to say, I think he's got to be better than Kimbrel at least. And I think, for a Hader, he's someone that I'd be very comfortable with in a Phillies uniform.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to happen if you sign, one of these true number 2 type pitchers. So something to keep an eye on. The other names on my list that we can run through here, and then we'll get to your guys real quick. I don't hate Hector Neris. I think he had a pretty good year last year down in Houston. He's been solid. He's consistent. His projected market value is like a 2-year deal for $15 million. There's his stats that Tyler made for you last year. Some pretty decent numbers for Hector. His hard hit number percentage and his exit velocity both went down last year. He moved into a setup role the last 2 years. And yeah, if you brought him in, that's what he would be. You'd have Sir Anthony and him, and maybe Orion if he, exceeds next year. Maybe Hoffman. So all of a sudden you'd have like 3 or 4 high leverage kind of setup guys with the possibility of Alvarado being the closer, I would assume. But all of a sudden that would become a strength. So I don't hate the idea of Hector Neris at all. Now, Liam Hendriks is a guy we talked about yesterday briefly from the White Sox. He kicked Hodgkin's lymphoma's ass this year. Didn't have his best year by any means, but who the hell does after you kick cancer's ass? But he is somebody that intrigues me, definitely. All I'm really looking for is one more guy that could potentially close for you, kind of be that setup, high leverage guy. He only had 5 appearances last year. Numbers not great at all, but he did have that 1.04 whip. He has pedigree. The White Sox declined his number. I think he's a guy that interests me. Some of his market projections are 2 years and $12 million. So again, another one of those like $6 million guys. There isn't a high risk involved with that. You kind of have a good enough foundation in your bullpen where adding somebody like that to the mix is very intriguing to me.